Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to this training session. My name is Judy Peterson, and I will be walking you through the reports that we have available for our field issuers. We will also go over the updated composite mortgage affidavits, which were introduced on July 1st. Throughout the hour, if you have any questions, please submit them as a note on the webinar screen. We will go through the training session and then answer your questions at the end. Also keep in mind that we have our resources screen on the website where you can find training documents and some pre-recorded videos to help you navigate the report and the CAP transaction screen. And those training resources can be accessed by clicking right here. So let's get started. Today I'm logging in as attorney Jane Test, but the reports and features I will demonstrate are available in the same way to our abstractors and closers, and also to anyone on your staff who is in the admin role. The participants are available within the participant record. The reports are available, within the participant record. You can get to that screen when you log into CAP by choosing View, Renew, Edit My Participant Record, which I'm going to do today. When you log in, or if you're already logged in, you can use the View tab and choose Participants, and you'll end up on this same screen. This is the participant listing screen. There's no need to search when you land on this screen because the results already appear below. So here we have the attorney and all of the staff who have a username and password. And to get to the reports, we need to go to the attorney screen, so it's this one right here next to her name. Now we landed on the participant details screen, and the reports are found under the Reports tab. Let's begin with report number 2.4, the number of days between mortgage filing and certificate issued. Okay, sorry about that. To access this report, you need to choose a prepared by, so you can choose one or more of the staff, or you can select all, which was what I'm going to do. And then we choose a beginning and end date, and I want to choose a date that's a long time ago so that we get a lot of results. And we'll use today as the end date. And then just click on View Report. I'm going to try maximizing this again. There we go. Okay. This report shows the actual number of days between when the mortgage was filed and when the certificate was issued. So you'll use this report to comply with the ALTA Best Practice number 5, Title Policy Production and Delivery. And I'm going to quote a couple of the questions that are asked on that worksheet. On average, how long after settlement does it take for your company to send out policies to the customer or financial institution? And the second question is, does your company have controls to ensure that certificates are issued and delivered to the customer or financial institution within 30 days of settlement if terms and conditions of the commitment have been satisfied? So here the last column of this report shows how many days it was between the time the mortgage was filed and the certificate was issued. So this report will be able to allow you to answer yes to both of those questions. Our reports default with the oldest date first. So if you find the date column, you'll see that's the order they're displayed. All of these reports, many of these reports have an arrow in the header column which helps you to sort the report right on the screen. So for example, on this one, if you wanted to sort by who prepared the commitment, you could click the arrow and then it changes these into alphabetical order. There's a refresh button here if you want to change it back to the original display. If you want to save or sort the report in Excel or another version, you use this button, the export button, and then you can choose which method you want to save it in. Jane doesn't have very many files, so all of hers fit on one page, but if you have a lot of files you're working with, to get to the next page, you'll use these buttons up here to get to the other pages. Keep in mind when you're exporting your report, the entire report will show, not just the page that you're looking at. And to close out your report, you just click on the little red X in the corner to close, and you'll get back on the report screen. Next, we're going to look at report 2.5, the incentives paid. We're going to enter a start and end date for this report. I'm going to just put July 1 as my start date and then today as the end date. And remember, our incentives are paid once each month, so if you put the first of the month as your start date, you're going to get good results. There's that report. And on the incentives paid report, it also includes a total at the end. So if you have more than one page of results, you'll go to the last page to see your total. Also on these reports, once you select your start and end date and you run the report, you can always change those dates at any time and then just run it again. So that's what that View Report button is for. Okay, let's close this one out. The next report is 2.6, Rapid Certificates Showing of Release Not Completed. This report actually defaults with a start and end date to cover all possible files, but again, you can change those dates if you want to get a shorter result. This report shows all rapid certificates issued where the showing of release has not been entered into CAP. This report replaces the rapid certificate letter that you previously received on a monthly basis. You can run this report at any time. The report will return all certificates, lenders, junior, and owner, where the endorsement against loss lien was selected and the showing of release hasn't been filled in yet. You'll see that this report also includes a column for date of release, and we did that on purpose for your benefit. When you export this report into an Excel or any other version, you'll have a place there where you can write down the date, the file date of the release, and the recording information as you're doing your research. And then when you go back into CAP to fill in that showing of release, you'll have all of that information in one place. All right, minimize this again, out. The next report is 2.7, Issued Commitments with No Issued Certificate. This report also defaults with a start and end date to cover all possible files. I'm going to minimize this for a minute. It also has a default for display premium paid commitments only, and it defaults to false. So if we leave it as false, it's going to give us all commitments that have no issued certificate. If we change this to true, it's only going to show those where the premium has been paid. So those are two options for you. And again, I'm going to leave it as false, and we'll run that report. This report not only identifies the details about each of those commitments, but it also has columns for whether there was a CPL issued with the commitment, a pending certificate was started, or funds have been applied, and it tells you who prepared the commitment. So if you want to sort this and just focus on those that had the funds, for example, you can sort it that way. or with the CPL or the pending certificate. And we'll close that one out. The next report is 2.8, commitments older than 6 months without an issued certificate. No date range is needed for this report. It just runs. I'll show you that. It runs so that you get all your possible files as of today. Beginning in June of this year, we began the automatic cancellation of commitments which had expired with no activity. Our commitments are effective for 6 months after the effective date or the date of abstract certification, and they automatically expire 6 months and 1 day after that date if there's no CPL, no premium received, and no certificate has been started. So this report will only show commitments older than 6 months that have a CPL and or a pending certificate and or where we received the premium. If a commitment has been issued but the loan did not close, the commitment should be canceled. And so this is a good way for you to follow up on any of those files. All right, the next file, the next report is 2.10, CPLs with no issued certificate. This report defaults with today as the end date, but once the report is generated, you can change that date if you want. This report is helpful for the field issuer who handles their own closings and also for those who add CPLs to a commitment issued by another field issuer. The column Commitment Signed By indicates who issued that commitment. The CPL Issuer column indicates who handled the closing. So as you can see, Jane Test issued the commitment and did the closing for several of these files. 2 of the transactions that show up were the commitment was issued by another attorney, but Jane did the closing. And then several of these, Jane handled the commitment, but someone else did the closing. This report also indicates whether there was a pending certificate started and if funds have been applied. The last 2 reports are going to help you manage your invoices and your premium payments. Report 2.12, Open Cash Receipts, is the first one. And I'm going to use today's date as the end date. On this report, the lines in white display the check information. So we have the date received, the check number, the payment type, which would be check or ACH, the account name, so that's who actually cut the check, the check amount, and the amount open. And the lines in gray or blue on this screen are the information about the transaction, so either the certificate or the commitment that the check was pre-allocated or allocated to. Those check numbers that are 16 digits are probably an e-payment. That's how they're displayed in the system, and this would be the tracking number that you got when you made your e-payment. These other checks with the shorter numbers are probably actual checks that were deposited in the normal way. Let's take a look at this first one here. It was pre-allocated to a certificate number. See, there's that L number. The full amount is still open, so my guess is this is a certificate that might still be in pending status. And once it's issued and the invoice is created, this check will be allocated to that transaction, and this won't appear on your open cash report any longer. This one here, this check was sent in by a realtor. $125 check, 15 is still open. So we might guess that this owner certificate it was allocated to might need another endorsement, or maybe there's a refund that's going to be due. So this report will help you determine whether you need to contact us and ask for a refund, or you might need to go back into that transaction and add an endorsement. If we do a refund, our current policy is to send that money back to whoever cut the check. So that refund would go back to this realtor. Okay, go to the next report. 2.13 is open invoices and open cash. Again, I'm going to use today as the end date. And this report displays open invoices and open cash, including columns for the amount due, amount paid, amount open, and balance due. I'm going to need to put this down a little bit here. To do the whole thing. There we go. I'm not going to be able to see all the columns. Okay. The first invoice that appears on this report doesn't even have a transaction number there, so I'm guessing this $25 invoice is probably for an unpaid renewal fee or maybe some other fee. So if you see an invoice like that on your report, you'll probably want to call our office and we can do that research for you and see what that invoice was for. All the rest of these invoices and cash and payments include a transaction number, so you can see what you need to see when you're looking through here. The amount open, the amount due, and that'll help you manage your files. You also might want to sort this report as to invoice and check to get those together, or the item type to get all your payments together, your invoices together, like that. All right. Let me Okay. All right, so that's all our reports. I'm going to take a look here and see if we have any questions so far. No? Okay, I don't see any questions. So next we're going to look at our new composite mortgage affidavit. So to do that, we'll go to the resource desk. Our composite mortgage affidavits were updated as of July 1st. As you know, the composite mortgage affidavit prints out with every issued commitment, and we also have them available at the bottom of the resource desk right here for those transactions where you didn't need a commitment. There's no longer an all-purpose composite mortgage affidavit. We now provide an owner and seller PDF of that composite mortgage affidavit or a buyer version. These are directed to who needs to sign the document rather than the property purpose. So for a purchase transaction, you'll need both versions because you'll have a buyer and a seller. For a refinance transaction, you'll only need the owner or seller version. Let's look at the buyer version first. These are fillable forms when you access them from the resource desk. And when a commitment's issued, the commitment number, the loan number if it's available, and the property address all pre-fill, along with the typed name where the buyer, where they need to sign. So when you're filling this out with a certificate transaction, you might want to fill those pieces of information in first before you print it. Each of the questions should be answered. Nothing should be left blank. So the answer might be as simple as none or NA for not applicable. The buyers might resist answering some of these questions because they aren't aware of situations regarding that property, but information can be collected from documents they have access to, such as the preliminary title opinion or the purchase agreement. So encourage them to answer every question. Remember that the completion and notarization of the buyer's CMA is necessary in order to issue an owner certificate. And you can verify their marital status and whether they actually want that coverage by how they signed and answered those questions. So be sure to check the signed CMA before actually issuing an owner certificate. Next, we'll look at the owner and seller version. Again, you can add the loan number, the property address, and the names, printed names for them. And every question needs to be answered. So it's pretty much the same as the other one. Okay, so let's see if we have any questions now about the CMA. No, I don't see any questions. All right. So before we close, I want to remind you of an upcoming webinar that we have scheduled for tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And this webinar will introduce the e-payment portal, and it'll be directed towards our lenders, realtors, closers, others who don't log into CAP. So we'll also provide instructions for the completion of the updated composite mortgage affidavits during that webinar. So if you know of anyone who'd be interested in those topics, please encourage them to sign up. And that's all that I have for today. I want to thank you for attending this training session. We appreciate your continued use of the CAP program and Iowa Title Guarantee. Please call our help desk if you have any questions about the reports or the composite mortgage affidavit or any other CAP matter. Also, please let us know if you have any suggestions for future webinar topics. Thanks again. Have a good afternoon.